Welcome, friends and fellow birders, to 10 Birding Questions, the Birding with Bilbo podcast. I'm your host, Nate Bowler, author of the Birding with Bilbo Substack. If you're out there listening, thank you. We are here to meet and get to know birders. Birders from all corners and of all stripes. And one of those birders is Jess Andersen. Fellow birders and wildlife enthusiasts may know her from social media as Jess in the Wild. Jess is rehab director at the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center in Northern Virginia, and I've been following Jess's professional and birding adventures on various social media platforms for several years now, and I am super excited to have her on 10 Birding Questions. Welcome, Jess, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's good to see you, and we will just jump right in with the first question I ask all my guests. Tell me your birding origin story. How did you get started?
So, I guess it was just over a long period of time. I was always interested in animals as a kid. I grew up in the woods, so we were always surrounded by wildlife. But I guess it didn't officially take hold how interesting and cool birds were until I took an ornithology class in college. And my amazing professor, Dr. Shed, would take us out into the woods and out into different habitats, and we'd learn bird calls. He would tell us about different bird behaviors. We got to watch him set up a fake screech owl in a tree and play screech owl sounds. So we watched all the songbirds come down and mob it. And it was just really interesting to kind of realize that birds they're not just people are just oh, they're all birds, whatever. They don't really have thinking or they're not making decisions, but then you actually take a minute to watch them and you're they are thinking things. They
right.
are figuring things out, right?
Yes.
And in some ways way better than we are. So that was kind of where it started of my interest of wow, there's so much more behind this. And then I left college, was working at a couple of different places, and I'm really upset because I worked in Texas for about a year.
Uh-oh.
And I wasn't super into birding then, which is really disappointing for my personal life list because I'm there were so many opportunities there. But when I came to Virginia, I started, wanting to kind of see birds better. I'm also blind. You can tell I have glasses on right now. So I started getting into photography or bird photography. And I just bought a little Nikon Coolpix because it had an amazing zoom. And I just started going out and just taking pictures of everything and coming back and looking at the photos and being what is that? And trying to learn how to identify things, obviously with the help of the internet. But that's kind of it. And then it sort of blossomed out of that because then I could take what I was seeing in the wild and how I could identify these birds and what I was observing to how I can take care of these birds better now when they come into our care. So a nice little combination there.
Would you say you have a spark bird? I wouldn't think you would name a fake screech owl as a spark bird.
I don't know if I ever really had that. The earliest real understanding or interest in a bird was maybe when I was 10 or 11 and we were out fishing on my dad's boat and we had this osprey kite and we were flying the kite off the boat and all of a sudden another osprey came over and was flying around the kite and flying near us and we were that's crazy. And now looking back I'm of course an osprey would think a kite is another osprey. They have two brains. So not surprising, but maybe that was it, but it was, there was never really a bird that I was oh my God, I really saw this bird, and that's what got me into it. It was kind of just a slow realization that birds are interesting and I want to know more about them.
Backing up to your childhood, would you say there were certain animals that you were especially interested growing up that captivated you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I was 100% a horse girl growing up, so horses were number one.
Did you have horses?
We did for a little bit, yeah. And I used to ride horses. It was literally a barn right across the woods from where I grew up. So I could walk through the woods to the barn, spend all day there, and then walk home. Or my bus stop was at the top of the road that led down to the barn. So instead of walking home, I would just go there after school.
Cool.
But like we had a lot of wildlife. We had my dad like caught a coyote on our front porch one time. Like he would be mowing and we would come in and there would just be like a box of cottontails on our kitchen counter. Like, why are these here? And my dad would just be like, oh, I just found them. So, outdoor cats getting squirrels. So we definitely had a lot of encounters with wildlife growing up.
And this is growing up in what part of the country? I'm sorry.
This was in like central Maryland in Baltimore County.
Oh, okay, Baltimore area.
Mm-hmm. I grew up like right outside the Patapsco State Park. So it was very wild, but also within the confines of an actual community. And like, we weren't in the suburbs, but we still had access to all of like normal in-town things without being in town. It was very interesting combination.
Sounds very convenient to wildlife and civilization.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. Would you say that you had working with wildlife in your mind as a career from a very young age?
From a young age, I remember my like ideas of what I wanted to do when I grew up sort of mixed between, at first I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then I was like, that's a lot of pressure. That is, you've got like people's family pets, like those are their family members in your hands. And I was like, I don't know if I want
a lot of emotion,
all of that responsibility. And then obviously Steve Irwin was a big influence, and I was like, I want my own TV show, and I want to go out and like show people wildlife and teach about them. And then it changed when I was in high school to, I want to be a photographer for National Geographic so that I can go and see things. And then I got to school and was like, wow, photography is hard, and I am not a fan of developing film. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work with animals in some concept. I had no idea what like rehabilitation was until the semester before I graduated, and I was like, shit, I need to figure out what I'm doing when I graduate.
Yep.
So I just started Googling a whole bunch of like hands-on animal care internships. And one of them was a marine mammal care internship in San Pedro, California. And I applied to like probably 50 places. I got accepted to 2 different spots. And I said, yeah, let's go to California. I have a friend there. I'll live in her laundry room for a couple of months and do my internship. And that's kind of how that all started.
What type of a birder are you? A take your time type of birder? Go out with your camera, try to spend time looking at individual birds? Do you like to hustle, get a big checklist, mix of those modes?
I'm a little bit of a mix, definitely more of a hustle kind of mindset. I like to move and bird, and if I get to a spot where there's like a whole lot of activity happening, right? There's a lot of noises, that I can see activity in the trees, I'll stop and hang out for a little bit, try to get as many pictures as I can, like that are reasonable. If I'm like, I can't see anything, or I can't hear anything anymore, I'll hang out and be like, okay, I'll count down from 30, and if nothing interesting happens, I'm moving on. So I like to move, but it's still kind of a joke if I take anyone who's not a birder with me. Like, I like to go hiking. I like to just like go out walking, but it is very much are we hiking today or are we birding today? Yeah, 2 very different, very different goals. How much time am I willing to spend in one place? Like, this hike should be only like a 2-hour hike. Am I okay with it taking 4 hours? So that kind of, I have to make that decision anytime I'm going outside, which was a really interesting discovery for me as a person who was very much a hiker and was very much a get to the top, get to the end point, turn around, like really pushing yourself like athletically. And now I'm like, it's like a hard conflict between what I used to like to do and what I like to do now, and feeling like if I don't do both of those things and accomplish both of those things, it kind of feels like a waste. But I have to be like, okay, but I saw these cool birds today, right? Or sometimes I go on a hike and I'm like, am I taking my 7-pound camera with me? Is this worth it? And I never regret taking it, but I always regret not taking it. So now I have to take it every time. So that's where That's where we're at.
I do find myself sometimes going out on a bird walk with my camera and then just sort of forgetting it's there. Mm-hmm. And by the time I'm done and I have this sore back and sore neck, thinking, why did I bring this with me?
Yeah. Do you take like your binoculars and a camera at the same time?
Always, yeah. Always.
See, I can't. I have a pair of binoculars. I think I've used them maybe twice. Because I'm like, I can see better with my camera, or like at least I can take a picture, because if I see a bird, there is no way that if I don't know what it is, I'm going to remember exactly all of the feel. I have to like walk back to my car and be like, 2 wing bars, partial eye ring, light brown up top, white bottom. And I just have to like keep repeating that to myself, or else it will just like change in my brain. So I just take pictures of everything and then just like pray to the bird gods for whenever I develop the pictures later.
Yeah, I think I don't have enough confidence in myself as a photographer to depend on the camera. So the one thing that's not expendable is, the binoculars for me.
See, I don't like people ask me and they're like, oh, how did you do? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with a camera. Like, I am doing the pray and spray method. Yeah. For the longest time, I was like, why are all my photos turning out really dark? And then I realized I had my ISO not set on auto, and it was on like 200 for 2 months. And I was so confused. So like, I don't know that I really have skill with my camera. I just take so many pictures that I'm like, well, one of those should turn out. Let's hope.
I have been in that. No, I am still in that exact same position. Mm-hmm. I just hope for the best. I'm not real acquainted with all the settings of the camera, so I point and shoot and hope for the best. But I will say that what you put up on your Instagram looks really good.
Thank you.
So it looks like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think this last trip from Magee Marsh, I had like 3,000 pictures, and I haven't even gone through half of them. Yeah. And I had like 250 that I had pulled from that to be like, oh, well, we'll try to edit these. And I've gone through like 30 of them. So this is what's going to get me through the hot summer, non-migratory months, is just me editing all of those photos eventually.
You work in the field of wildlife rehab. What's a typical day like in that profession? Do you get to work with a lot of birds as a follow-up?
Yeah.
I followed up too soon.
Yeah, definitely. So I do get to work with a lot of birds. Like a typical day, it's hard to really have a typical day because it's constantly always changing, which is one thing that I really love about this job. But generally speaking, like I come in, first thing I do, so I'm the rehab director, so I'm in charge of both overseeing like the rehabilitation journey of all of our patients, as well as in charge of overseeing and training our volunteers and interns, as well as in charge of, helping with some of our social media, with some events and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like moving pieces there. But first thing I do is I come in, I'm assigning shifts to everybody, our volunteers and interns, so they know what they're responsible for the day. We get all of our first morning feeds for kids who are getting fed most often. So like we have birds who are fed every 30 minutes, every hour. I've got squirrels or possums or raccoons that are being fed 5 to 6 times a day while we're there. And we're only there for about 10 to 11 hours in the day. So we have to like pack all of these things in as much time as possible. And normally I'm there early and then I'm also leaving late. So it kind of expands a little bit in both directions. Right. We have animals that are on medication. So if they have BID meds or are on meds twice a day, we want to get them done first thing as early as possible so they have as much time before their PM med dose. We do rounds with our veterinary team. We have 2 full-time veterinarians, a vet tech, and it's myself, the rehab director. We have a rehabber under me, and then we also have a rehab fellow. So we all get together with our volunteers and interns. We sit down and we say, here's what's going on today. Here's every patient in the building. here's what our plans are. So maybe we have plans that these guys are going to move outside today. These kids are ready for release. We're going to start coordinating those. Here are these animals. They've had these issues. So everybody kind of be on the lookout for that. And if it gets worse or it gets better, let us know. And then making sure everybody's kind of on the same page. And then we just move on to getting everyone fed, everyone cleaned, everyone enriched. And then through that, especially right now, this is our busiest season. May is the month that we take in the most animals every year. So this past month, we took in 773 animals in just 31 days, which was insane. Wow. But now we're in June. So June is like the next highest, and then it kind of sort of like tapers off. Medium in July. August, we start tapering down even further. So it's really like April through August are our kind of chaotic busy season. So
is that because it's the breeding season, you're getting a lot of babies?
Yeah. So majority of our patients, actually, we just looked at our stats, and only about like 53% of our patients in the month of May were babies. But we also have to think we're getting a lot of turtles that are hit by car because it's warm, they're moving, they're looking for mates, they're looking for places to lay eggs. It's rainy, that's like perfect habitat, that's perfect timing for them to start moving. We get a lot of mammal babies, but we're still getting animals, adult animals that are being hit by cars, being trapped in netting, being stuck on glue traps. So all this time while we're trying to coordinate all these babies being fed, all of these interns and volunteers being trained, we're also getting anywhere between 25 to 40 animals every single day. So it's kind of like a constant flow of adjusting of what's coming in, what needs to be moved. Like we have, I think, 10 rooms that we have, like we can have patients in, and the rooms aren't named, they're just numbered. Because we used to have them named, we'd have like mammal nursery and then mammal room and then reptile room. But then we started realizing like your mammal room could have a mycoplasmosis finch in it and a rat snake recovering from snake fungal disease and an adult possum. And I'm like, so it's really not mammal room anymore. So we just put numbers because we just use the rooms as we need them. And obviously some of them are more tailored. Like our avian nursery is pretty much always our avian nursery with very few exceptions there. But it's very crazy.
Different set of needs.
That's the like best answer. Yeah, the best answer I can give for like what a normal day looks like. As far as birds, like currently we have over 50 birds in our avian nursery. We just got a black-billed cuckoo in a couple of days ago, which I have never seen in the wild. So now I'm like, this is kind of contentious. Like if you get a lifer bird in, I don't count it in hospital, but does it count if I take it for release? I release it, and then I say, look, there's a black-billed cuckoo in the tree. Can I count that?
I'm with you. I wouldn't count it in the hospital. I've been to banding stations where I've seen birds that I don't count, but I sort of think that once it's out, free, I'm good. Like I'm counting
and
it.
we take them back where they came from. So it's not like we're just releasing these adults wherever and we're saying like there he is and then he's going to die shortly later, right? So we do release them back where they came from. He was a suspect window strike, which is the majority of why we get most of our cuckoos. And actually we have a yellow-billed cuckoo and a black-billed cuckoo right now. So we got pictures of them for good comparison. That's pretty cool. But currently in our avian nursery, just for like baby birds, I think there might be 2 adult birds in that room and our porch. We have over 50 baby birds right now. Wow. And that's covering, what do we have? We have 2 like fledgling pileated woodpeckers, a couple of Carolina wrens, mostly American robins, mostly house finches. We have some eastern bluebirds, some common grackles. So those are like the most common birds we're going to see, like your normal backyard birds that people are watching and paying attention to. And if something is wrong with them, they are encountering. Every now and again, we get something neat like our black-billed cuckoo. But like in terms of babies, like we've had red-eyed vireo babies before. Oh my God. So adorable.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Oh, they have the eye stripe already, like when they're nestlings even. It's very cute. And also the whole, like identifying baby birds when they're they have nothing on them except maybe down on them, or some of them don't have any down on them, like blue jays or woodpeckers or house sparrows. Like, that is a whole other science in and of itself of looking at something. And for the most part, most of the common ones I can look at and be like, oh yeah, that's a house finch, that's a robin, that's a mockingbird, that's a gray catbird. But every now and again we get something weird, like we had Acadian flycatcher fledglings come in, or nestlings come in like 2 years ago, and I just was staring at them like, you're a flycatcher, but you're not a phoebe, and you're not a peewee, and you're not a great crested. So what are you? And we had to go to the internet, and we had to go to like ornithologists and be like, hey, what is this? And they were, because we thought at first, our hospital director was like, they're least flycatchers. And I was like, Jen, those are so rare. Like, I don't think that's what they are. Like, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. But the pictures looked so good for them. And then finally we posted them, and a couple people went on there and they were like, these are Acadian flycatchers. Like, the least flycatchers on the range breed way further north than we were. And we were like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It's Acadian flycatchers. So sometimes we don't know, and we have to utilize different sources. I'm in a great Facebook group that is just songbird rehabilitators from all over the country. And now you can post in there and be like, here's this baby bird, this is their weight, this is where they're from, inside of the mouth is this color. And if you can get like a sound of them calling, someone in that group will know what it is. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That suite of flycatchers, those eastern flycatchers, MP flycatchers, are challenging on one hand. But on the other hand, speaking of this banding station I went to once, having a bird that close to you, when you're used to seeing it 10, 20, 30 feet away, it's a little jarring. I remember them catching a Swainson's thrush, which is a bird I know pretty well in the field, but having it in my hand thinking, what is this?
yeah.
It's like, when it's that close, everything sort of goes out the window, at least for me. And they told me what it was, and then finally I looked at the field marks and thought, yeah, of course that's what it is. But it's just a different experience to have a bird that close to you, at least for me.
We get like similar things where, people most people are very familiar with like red-tailed hawks, maybe red-shouldered hawks, and they see them right up on like the power lines or in their backyard. But then when they have to rescue one and they have to like have that bird up against them or like holding it in their hands, they're like, it's an eagle because it's huge.
Yes.
And you're like, no, this is a red-tailed hawk. They are just this big.
Yeah.
You just see them from really far away most of the time.
Completely different perspective. And that's got to be unsettling too, holding a hawk, especially for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes people just show up and they are holding these birds in the most like haphazard way, like no protection, like they had no equipment, and they just like have them by their legs and talons. And I'm just staring at them like, how did you do this without getting mortally wounded? Like, I don't understand. But like, good for you. Well done. Like, some people are just born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's
I think that's true. Some people just have some sort of preternatural ability.
Yeah.
Probably touched on some of this already. What are some of the most memorable animals that have come under your care? And it could be bird or non-bird.
We have a couple of conservation police officers, or like game wardens, as most people know them as, because one game warden will cover multiple counties. So we normally end up on pretty like first name basis with them. And one of them texted me one day. I remember I was sitting in the office with our hospital director, and he just sends me this picture, and he's like, what kind of hawk is this? And I look at it, and it's a freaking northern goshawk in his chicken coop. And I was like, what's going on here? Why do you have this? And he was like, oh, it was eating one of my chickens, and when I opened the thing, it didn't fly away. And so I was like, hey, this obviously needs help. Can you bring it into us? He was like, no, I've already left, but I did lock him in the like coop that's there if you want to go get it. So I was like, yeah, I do want to go get it. Okay. So I had to drive out to his house, like get over his electric fence that was there. And if he had locked it in the coop, but there was this wide open, like just an opening, he could have jumped out. So thank God he was still there. But he ended up, he had a crop puncture wound, like basically a puncture wound from the outside through his crop, which is probably why he was eating chickens, because he wasn't feeling well enough to like actually hunt real things. So we brought him in and we were like, oh, we're not sure how this is going to go. Like, the only time I've ever seen a northern goshawk and the only time I've ever worked with a northern goshawk. And they're like Cooper's hawks if they were on steroids. Like,
right.
Same attitude where, like, all of our Cooper's hawks, they're normally very flighty. They're normally very stressy. They're one of the few birds that if you open the enclosure, they'll actually dive at you to get past you, versus most birds, they're like, they try to get away, they go up against the wall. The Coopers and Sharpshins, they're like, no, we're leaving. Yeah. They're like, we see the small sliver of light next to you, and we're going for that. He was just like 3 times the size of it. So it was kind of terrifying in reality. But surprisingly, he made a great recovery. We did surgery. We closed up both the like external wound, but the internal wound to the crop. He was eating great on his own. We flight tested him outside. He was flying great. And after a couple of weeks, we released him nearby to where he was found, but at like a public location, and we publicized it. Like, every now and again, we will do public releases. It's just hard to plan because normally you go out, you look at that bird, and you say, yep, today you are ready to go. And we try to get them out as like that
soon as
same
possible.
Day.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of planning that can happen, but because of where he came from, we were like, I don't want to release him back where your chickens are, because most likely, even if he feels better, he'll probably just keep killing them.
Easier target.
Exactly. So we were like, and they're supposedly like they're migratory through this area. So we were like, and I think it was late fall or early winter, so we weren't expecting him to stay here for very long. So we're like, well, we had this public like arboretum nearby. We were like, we're gonna release him there. We publicized it, and so many birders showed up to take pictures and be like, first goshawk of like Frederick County in Virginia. Like, it was insane. So that was really cool. And they're just like one of the most striking birds I've ever seen. Non-bird, we've had a couple of porcupines come in, which in Virginia, they are considered extirpated, so like locally extinct. But we are right in like the northwestern like corner of Virginia. So we're right up against West Virginia, where the porcupines have sustained themselves. So now they're starting to like move from West Virginia into Northern Virginia. And we had one who was found trapped in a parking garage in like downtown Winchester, like nowhere near anywhere they should have been, was like harassed by a dog. They brought him in. He was skinny. He was young. We were like, all right, we'll beef you up. Make sure you have no wounds. And after a couple of weeks of that, of him gaining weight, looking great, we released him back like right along another, it was at a campground, but it was like rural, in the woods, great habitat for a porcupine, and kind of between where he was found and where West Virginia starts. So we were like, you must have gotten here somewhere along this route, and hopefully this will do better for you.
Yeah, so speaking of handling challenges, how do you handle a porcupine? What are the precautions you have to take?
Very carefully. So we have like Kevlar gauntlets, essentially, or Kevlar gloves. So the spines don't really stick into that material as well. And normally their bellies and the undersides of their tails are not spined. So you're normally kind of picking them up like a serving platter, essentially. Like your whole arm and hand are underneath their belly, so you're not getting those spines. A lot of people want to like throw a towel or something over them, but then you have the problem, the spines get stuck in those, and if you try to pull the towel off, then you just pull all their spines out. So that was a really interesting handling, and I had handled some porcupines previously at my old job in Texas before that, so I was kind of familiar, with how to care for this guy and how to set him up. And most of the time, especially with certain patients, like, oh my God, Canada geese are the best to have in care. They're like anything that you can have that is willing to like cooperate with you. like Canada geese. You just open their cage up, and as long as it's on the floor, you can just kind of like corral them out, and they pop out. They'd kind of, you put a little pool on the floor while you're cleaning their cage. They go in it, they bathe themselves, and then you just go, here, I put your food and all of your things back in your cage, and you walk over back behind them, and they go, okay, great, and they just walk into their own cage by themselves. Like, Canada geese are one of my favorite things to care for.
Interesting, because the way that they behave sometimes when I'm just casually walking by them, I wouldn't have thought they would be so docile.
I think it's like they do obviously don't want to be handled by us. Like, we get a lot of geese, like they're gonna hiss at us. I had a goose the other day or a couple weeks ago, who like, even though she was in this square enclosure, she would still try to like smack you in the face with her wings. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I would do that too if I was kidnapped by aliens, right? But most of the time, if you just get a towel over their face or I'll just like put my hands over their eyes while I'm holding them like a football, and they just go, oh, it's nighttime. Okay. And they just like, they fully give up. Like, if I'm holding their eyeballs closed or just have my hand over their eyes, somebody can do like, the other day I was trying to look at a wound on a goose's hawk, and I was by myself outside an enclosure, and I just threw a towel over her face. She sat down, and I was able to just like pull her leg out and look at it, and pull her wing out and look at her wrist, and like, she didn't fight me at all. And then as soon as you take the towel off, she's like, oh, daytime, like time to murder people. And I'm like, great. So like, they're like, geese and ducks kind of do that very very like expectantly. You just make their faces dark, and they just go, oh, I guess I'm just existing in a dark realm now. I don't understand. Relating of Canada geese to porcupines was, if you have an animal that you can just kind of be like, hey, you just sort of use your pressure as a person, or in some cases you can use like a door, or like a piece of wooden like cardboard or something, just to kind of usher them in a direction. And the porcupine was very much that. Like, you didn't really have to physically grab him very much. You could just kind of move around the enclosure with him, and he would move away. And if you needed him to go into something or on a scale, you would just move him enough for him to get onto the scale and then back up, and you're like, great, perfect. So wherever we can be hands off with animals is my ideal. But some animals are just much more willing to be hands off than other. Like, a Cooper's hawk would never. A Cooper's hawk would kill itself flying into a window multiple times before it would ever do anything for you. So, whereas the Canada geese are like, okay, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, a little mafiosa situation with the Canada geese. Perfect birds.
So you have the spectrum. On one end, you have the accipiters, and on the other end, you have the waterfowl. In terms of ease of handling, easiest being the waterfowl. Well, now wait a minute. Have you ever had a swan come in your care?
We had it was a whooper swan, but it was a domestic. Someone had purchased these whooper swans, so that it was not like not a rare bird. Somehow ended up in Virginia. These people were like, they have lived here for many years, and now one is injured. So we had that, but he was pretty down. He was pretty sad, so he really didn't fight us very much. The only other time I've ever encountered a swan in rehab was in Texas, because we had mute swans there. They're kind of just like bigger geese, like they're gonna put their wings up, they're gonna hiss at you, but as soon as you just get their face covered, you can just tuck them under your arm like a football. Like, they're just like, oh, okay, guess I'm here now. Like, it's just so comical to me, like, because people are so afraid of Canada geese, like, out in the wild, and they're like, they're so mean and they're so evil. And I'm very much of the understanding that, like, if you've ever been victimized or bullied by a Canada goose, at some point in your life,
it's on you.
like it might not have even been that in that moment, but at some time in your life, you had like a karmic balance, and that goose or swan is getting, the payment back. And as a person who has been attacked and chased by geese, I fully stand by it. But now I have recouped that, and now me and the geese are super chill. We're on the same level. We're cool with each other.
All right, so now I know that if I ever get attacked by a goose, I'm paying for my sins.
At some point in time, yes.
What do you do with an animal that survives but can't return to the wild?
That's a great question. As a wildlife center, right, we try to remind people that we are not a sanctuary. We're not just like a place for animals who can't go anywhere. And there's also a reason for that for wildlife specifically. Like, it's a little different for domestic animals who are literally born and bred and raised to be companions to people.
Right.
That's just, we've created them to be that way. For wildlife, it is very much a consideration of, number one, if we get an animal in right away, say a raptor, for example, there are federal rules of what is allowed to be kept and what isn't. So we had a Cooper's hawk actually come in who some people had been setting leg traps for other animals, and a Cooper's hawk got his leg stuck in it, and when it snapped, it basically took off from the hawk down. And this father and son brought this Cooper's hawk in, and they were like, you can just put a prosthetic on it, right? And we're like, no, that's not how this works.
Right.
And also, like, even if we wanted to keep this bird, because now this bird is no longer releasable, even if we wanted to keep it legally from a federal legal standpoint, we cannot. So all birds have to have both feet. Because they need it for perching, it's for balance. If you only have one foot, especially for a heavy-bodied bird like a red-tailed hawk, a great horned owl, an eagle, it's a lot of pressure to put on one foot. They start getting bumble sores on their feet, and then that progresses to bone sores and bone infections, and now you have a welfare issue, right? Or even a euthanasia issue if they're losing their only other foot at that point.
Right.
But you also need 2 feet to perch and grab food and rip things up, right? So it's a behavior standpoint, it's a welfare standpoint. We have a peregrine falcon goose who was hit by an airplane and suffered basically a traumatic amputation of her primary feathers, like her metacarpals from her wrist down. Legally, you can only amputate up to the elbow, so she was within the safe range. And actually, she's a really good example to use. So we just amputated a little bit further up to the actual wrist because she had this like nub that she would get really stressed out and she would hit it on things and then it would break open and it would bleed and was obviously very painful. So we amputated further up to the actual wrist. So now those feathers on her wrist will cover that amputation site and kind of protect it from being hit on things. When we first got her, she was also a confiscation from another facility where we got 33 birds from them. And they knew she was going to be non-releasable, but they had just held on to her. There were other issues there with all the other birds. But so we had our basement room just stacked with all of these birds that came in a single day. So we have to evaluate them, see what they need, what medical stuff. And we knew she was going to be non-releasable, but she was still on antibiotics and pain medication. So we had to grab her every single day and force feed her medications, which is obviously extremely stressful and traumatizing. And it got to the point where we would walk into a room and she could not see us because the crate is covered, but she could hear us. And as soon as she heard that door open, she'd be banging around inside the crate, hurting herself and just making the situation worse. Yeah. And so reasonably, our vet staff was like, she's too stressful around people. We don't know that this is going to be an appropriate bird for captivity or just in general, an animal for captivity. And I was like, okay, let's move her out of the room of 33 birds. Let's put her in a room where she's the only bird in it. It's quiet. She's off of meds now. Let's just throw food at her and see what happens. And she was also, important to know, she was a first-year juvenile. So I think she came in February of 2016, so she had hatched in 2015. So she was still young, still had her juvenile plumage, and we're throwing food at her, and that's it. We're not grabbing her. We're not doing anything chaotic. It's quiet. And within 3 days of doing that, she would be at the door of her crate waiting for us to come feed her.
For the food.
Yes. And then within a week of that, she would come out onto a glove and take pieces from our hands.
Oh.
So it's definitely, and now she's on our wildlife walk. She's been with us ever since. She does not, like, people can come out and see her. She doesn't freak out. She just sits there. She watches you. She moves around.
That's so cool.
Perfect. But those are all the kind of things that we have to think about. Like,
yeah.
even if an animal's non-releasable, are they going to be, number one, is there whatever injury that's preventing them from being releasable, is that going to be a chronically painful thing that is going to impact quality of life? Number two, just because they're non-releasable doesn't mean that now you can transition this animal into a permanent captive situation where they're going to be surrounded by people. You know, we're predators for them. We tend to find that juvenile or like first year animals do better in adapting to that captive setting because they haven't really locked into their like adult behaviors or like what they've learned. They're still very malleable in learning about the environment around them. Versus if we got an adult peregrine falcon, that would probably be a very different situation.
Less adaptable,
yes. Yeah. So they're normally much more stressful. They're not as willing to adapt. And normally, I think in falconry, I don't know a ton about falconry, but I think for the most part, falconry birds are normally passage birds, which are first-year immature birds, right? I don't think anybody's out here catching fully adult peregrine falcons or like fully adult red-tailed hawks or things like that because of that reason. So there's a lot of those things that we have to keep in mind. Also space. So like we have a red-tailed hawk, we have a great horned, we have 2 vultures, we have a peregrine, we have a kestrel. Like we do not have unlimited space for everything. Yeah. And as a nonprofit, you know, that makes sense. But that goes the same for everywhere else. So people just think that anything that can't be released can go anywhere. And that's really not the case when resources are limited and space is limited. Makes sense. It's definitely more about the animal's well-being and the animal's welfare versus like maybe we feel bad for euthanizing an animal. But in my opinion and in my experience, death is not the worst thing that can happen to an animal.
My default with wildlife is don't touch. And I sort of get that, I think, from your social media as well. Don't touch whenever possible. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
What's one message you'd like people to take away about our interactions with wildlife and how we should treat the wild animals that live among us?
That was really hard to like figure out just one message because I have so many.
It doesn't have to be that strict.
But I guess like definitely, you know, you're onto is mostly like most of the time animals do not need our help, right? Like people find a fawn on the ground and they don't see an adult around and they immediately say, this child is abandoned and I have to find help for it. But tying into that is almost like I wish people would sort of take a step back and really evaluate, like, are you the best person for this animal? And, like, I don't know where, I don't know if it's an American thing or if it's, you know, just a human thing, but, like, we really often have a lot of audacity when we find wildlife to be like, yeah, I can take care of that. Like, I've got a cat. What's the difference between that and, you know, a raccoon, right? And it's like, what? Or, like, I try to compare it to, like, human children. Like, if I just found a human child by itself in, like, a mall, like, in the mall, like, the food court, my immediate thought would not be, let me take this child home and care for it myself. My immediate thought is, I need to find someone who's a professional who knows what to do with this child, and maybe they can find the parent or whatever, but like that, I don't have the resources and I don't have the knowledge in how to best do that, right? So I hope that people can take that sort of understanding and apply it to animals where maybe you recognize an animal needs help, or maybe you don't and you're just unsure. But the first thing is not to automatically say, well, let me take this raccoon into my home and feed it cheeseburgers and let my kids sleep with it in their bed. Like, maybe I should contact a professional, and by doing so, it might even be possible to reunite that baby with its mother. And so it never needs help. Right. It never needs to go into care, professional care. And even better, you are not coming into contact with it or dangerous contact where with a lot of animals, if
Right.
you handle them barehanded, if you've fed them with your fingers, if you've, come into your domestic animals have come into contact with them, that can be a death sentence for that animal. So, pull the reins back. And even if you're concerned, like, oh, but if I leave and I go to call someone and then I come back and they're gone, like, then just put a little box over it. You don't even have to touch it. You just put an upside down cardboard box over it, go and call someone, and then it's exactly where you left it. And once you have the information you need, then you can proceed with what you need to do. So, and also keep your cats indoors.
Right.
That's probably number 2 on my what I need people to understand.
Amen. Absolutely. All right. So don't default to take the animal home and feed it cheeseburgers.
Yeah, no cheeseburgers for the wildlife.
What are your thoughts on bird feeders? Are they good for birds? Bad? Neutral?
So,
is this a good thing that we do? That I do?
In my preparation of response to these questions, I just wrote underneath this question "spicy" in all caps because I feel like this is a weirdly contentious conversation. So, my thoughts on bird feeders are, if there's a spectrum, right, and we've got good, neutral, and bad, they're probably on the bad side of neutral, right? In my opinion, because a lot of people don't clean their bird feeders enough, and feeding birds to me is a responsibility. Like, if you're going to feed birds, you now have a responsibility to do it safely, and if you're not actively cleaning your bird feeder at least once a week, which that includes draining, getting all the food out of it, rinsing it, scrubbing it with soap, bleaching it for 15 minutes in a 10% bleach solution. And everybody's like, but what about vinegar? And I'm like, no, vinegar does not have the same disinfecting properties as bleach. So use bleach. So you have to let it sit and disinfect. Or if it's a non-porous, like it's all plastic, all metal, whatever, and it's small enough, you could always throw it into your dishwasher and put it on the sanitized section. That works too. But you have to fully disinfect them, bleach it, rinse it, let it dry, and then refill it at least once a week. And I tried bird feeding because I love birds. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to put a bird feeder out. I'm going to have all these birds. I've got a little water dish. I'm going to be able to see birds on my patio while I eat breakfast and drink my coffee. And then came the first time I had to clean it. And I said, I am too lazy for this. Like, I know myself and I'm not going to clean this enough. So I just never put it out after that first time. But so if you're not cleaning them right, you can spread, most notably what we get in a lot is mycoplasmosis, or some people know it as Finch eye disease. And it basically just causes conjunctivitis, which eventually leads to blindness in the birds. And then they either die of starvation or they die of easier predation because they're just sitting out on a feeder, not seeing anything. And we get quite a bit of those. We probably get 24 or so of those every single year. And it's normally right at spring when people are just putting their bird feeders out, and then right at fall when people are refreshing stuff, or maybe, I don't know, people are coming back from school or summer break and they're like, gotta put my bird feeders back up. But the problem is I also think that it alleviates people of any responsibility or thought of actually helping birds, because they'll be like, oh, well, I put a bird feeder out, I'm helping birds that way. This is a good thing I'm doing. Yeah, versus planting native plants versus supporting birds in other ways, or supporting native habitat and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I put the bird seed out. Right. And in my opinion, bird seed, what is that supporting? It's supporting your adult birds who eat some bird seed, but we know, cardinals, who are big seed eaters, are also eating insects. And we know that the majority of songbirds in North America raise their babies, regardless of what they eat as adults, on insects. So even though you're putting a bird feeder out, maybe you're getting a free lunch for your adult birds, you're not actually supporting the next generation of birds, and you're not allowing them to support their babies, right? They're now going to have to go elsewhere to find the actual prey items or the actual food items that they need to reproduce and survive the next generation. Right. I was at a conference this past February where I went to this woman who is like one of the top 3 bird rehabilitators in the country, and like we all go to her for advice. And she would basically said that bird feeders without natural habitat and without like native plants or other supports for these birds is basically luring birds into a barren trap, essentially. So like obviously
sense,
if you have bird feeders and you have native plants, okay, probably less of an issue. And like I don't think people are actively killing and impacting enough birds through bird feeders or through like not cleaning your bird feeders that I doubt it's making like population level effects. But it's certainly, I think there are better ways for us to help birds. And so I'm anti-bird feeder, but I say that and then I go to like all the like nature centers that have like a window with a bird feeder on the other side and all the birds are there and I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
But normally those are in like, you know, there's natural habitat and stuff around it at the same time. But I don't think if you're super into bird feeding, you know, and you clean it, then by all means keep doing it. But if you're not cleaning it and you're only doing it and you're not really paying attention to it, like maybe take the feeder down and put up a couple window boxes of, you know, sunflowers or purple coneflower. We replaced our entire front lawn at our building with a native pollinator garden, and we get goldfinches, cedar waxwings, song sparrows, chipping sparrows, white-throated sparrows, dark-eyed juncos, all kinds of stuff. Just from letting like the milkweed and the coneflower and all that stuff grow. So
that might take a little more work initially, but
then it's it.
Just as effective. Yeah, right.
You don't have to clean it. You don't have to disinfect it every week.
Right.
It's the initial like I gotta plant things and then I gotta weed a little bit. But even now, like it's been, I think our native garden's been up for 4 years now. We have not weeded that garden in like 2 years because it doesn't need it. It kind of like regulates itself.
Takes care of itself.
Yeah. To be fair, I also do take most of the dandelion out to feed my rabbits, our cottontails. But I'm not like pulling the roots out. I'm just taking some leaves and flowers. But it's always like very dense with everything else that most of the time I can't find anything. So.
So also noticed from your social media that you visited Magee Marsh in May. Was that your first time there?
Yes. Yeah. And it was so cool.
Cool.
We do, so I have 2 of my girlfriends who I used to work with. One was our previous vet tech. The other one was my rehabber. And now they all, our vet tech, she lives in Jersey now. My rehabber lives in Raleigh in North Carolina. So once or twice a year, we get together for our little girls trips, and our girls trips are always birding trips.
Yeah, great.
So we were like, this year we were like, let's do it. Let's do biggest week in American birding. Let's get the plans out of the group chat. And I was a little nervous because we really procrastinated. Like we got our hotel and we got our flights all booked, but we didn't register for the event until like a week before we were going, and all the field trips were sold out. And I was like, except for one on the last day that we were there, and I was like, man, like, are we gonna be missing out a lot? Like we're missing on all these trips and like these guided things. Like we don't know Ohio, but I was like, whatever, we'll just wing it. We'll see where they're going. We'll use that as a guide. And it ended up working out like really well. So we got there. The flight was crazy. We didn't get into our hotel until like 3 a.m., which was insane. The first day we went to Magee Marsh and we saw like all of the warblers right at eye level. Like that's insane, right? To be able to see a Blackburnian warbler like 8 feet away from you.
Right in your face.
Yes.
It's
just
crazy.
With no regard at all. Like there was a prothonotary warbler literally on the boardwalk, like railing, and people were just walking by it. And I was like, and he didn't care, and the people didn't care. And I was like,
totally unbothered.
Yeah, what is this witchcraft? And also, why doesn't anyone care about this prothonotary warbler right here, right? Like we didn't even get onto the boardwalk right away. We were walking across from the parking lot, and there was a yellow warbler like in a bush, and we stopped to take pictures, and some guy walked by and was like, "Whoa, what are you guys looking at?" And we're like, "Oh, a yellow warbler." And he's like, "Oh, just a yellow warbler, and I'm gonna be like, sir, I have a gun. Like, what? Like, don't play us down right now. Like, he's still beautiful, and he's right there. Like, and that was the entire trip. Like, we did eventually have to start ignoring the yellow warblers a little bit because, right, there's the boardwalk, and then there's this little trail that is just on the other side of the little, like, canal that the boardwalk goes around. And we walked down that on the second time we went there. And literally, no joke, I think we saw no less than, like, 20 yellow warblers.
Yep.
And at that point, I was like, okay.
Yep.
I love you, but I can't stand here in the sun and take every picture of you anymore.
You do have to move on.
Yeah.
Well, I felt the same thing eventually about prothonotary warblers.
Oh, okay.
Like, once I was like up to 8 or 10 of them, preface this by saying I found a prothonotary warbler in Allegheny County here in Pennsylvania, like a week, maybe 2 weeks before that trip. And that sent everyone running. All the local birders came running because that's like pretty rare here.
Yeah.
Then I get to Magee Marsh and I'm walking on the boardwalk for 30 seconds and there's a prothonotary warbler, like you say, like maybe on the railing or on the boardwalk or just right next to you in a tree. And it's like, wow, awesome. And then 2 hours later, you're like, well, there's the 10th one.
Yeah, it's another prothonotary.
Yeah, it's like, eh.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
It's just, it's a kind of a mind-bending experience walking that boardwalk and seeing those just coveted birds right in your face.
So I feel like normally my spring warbler, like warbling, doesn't go very well. Like, I'll see prothonotaries, I'll see yellows, I'll see, we have a lot of prairie warblers here. Occasionally, I'll like hear parulas, but I don't see parulas a ton because they're always at the very top of the freaking trees.
Yep.
And I have a little spot near me that has breeding cerulean warblers, and I will every now and again like catch a glance, but my photos are never great, and they're always again like 40 yards up. But like
that is a tough one.
Yeah, here at Magee Marsh, I'd seen bay-breasted warblers before, but never in breeding plumage. So like the bay-breasteds just blew me away, and I was like, this is incredible. Like,
so beautiful with that chestnut.
Like just the dark, like they're just so moody, right? Yeah. And like we saw a Nashville warbler for the first time. That was a lifer for me, but nice. He was for a very brief, like sat in a bush behind another bush for maybe 7 seconds. I got 2 pictures, and then he just was like, bye, and dropped down, and then we never saw him again. Had never seen or heard Tennessee warblers before. Okay. They were all over, we went to like East Harbor. There were like 5 of them there. Yeah.
Probably being loud.
Yeah, and also like Ohio, what a strange place. Like beautiful natural areas, like beautiful lake, and then you like drive through these tiny little towns and you're like, what is going on? Like, is everyone retired here? Is this just is this what I thought Florida would be, but it's Ohio? Like, but all like...
Well, as a native Ohioan, I can tell you that not really.
What's going on with Ohio?
I don't know if I can unlock the mysteries of all of Ohio, but I can tell you that Northeast Ohio, where I'm from, is not necessarily like that. Yeah. But Western Ohio may be a little different.
Well, this was also a fun thing we were trying to figure out. Ohio, is it the Midwest?
It is the Midwest.
Okay.
And we know that people think that we're not, but we are. We want to belong. You're not kicking us out.
Like, I just think because I look at where Ohio is and I'm like, oh, you're right on the edge of Pennsylvania and like New York, and you're like, so these East Coast, you're right up against the East Coast. Yeah. And I like think of Midwest as like, Kansas, Wisconsin, like those further out there. And I'm like, where are we right now? I don't, and especially, I don't think we had the time doesn't change. So I'm like, we're not so far west that there's a different time zone. Right. But yeah, it was very interesting. The parks, amazing. Like, I have never seen, number one, free parks that are so like well maintained with such good signage, with like trails and so many people there to like help guide you places. I was like, this is insane and amazing. I was so impressed.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. And
Yeah.
I will say that we not only consider ourselves Midwest, but we consider ourselves Mid-Best.
Oh, that's pretty good.
What's your dream birding destination?
That's a great question. I would say like anywhere I haven't been that has different birds.
Yep.
I think we
Fair.
were talking about our next like girls birding trip, maybe trying to get to like Arizona or southern Texas.
Yes.
Kara and I, who was our vet tech, we were at South Padre Island a couple years ago for a conference, and we like ditched half the conference to go birding.
Good.
But we didn't rent a car, like we didn't have like as much access to go places, but like we saw green jays and we saw, oh my god, what are the chachalacas and just a whole bunch of waterfowl because it was in February. But I was like, oh, we should like do a dedicated trip to either like somewhere in the Southwest, because we've done Virginia Beach, we've done Cape May, now we've done Magee Marsh. And I'm like, we got to go west. We got to go somewhere else. But I guess if like dream situation, like I hear good things about people going to South America. I haven't have much research, but like I see people posting about it. And I'm like, holy shit, like that bird's real. Like that's
for sure. Costa Rica, Colombia, among other places, Ecuador, obviously, also a big dream. But South Texas and Southeast Arizona are elite birding.
Yeah.
That I've experienced and can highly recommend. So yes, do that.
That seems more like probably within our budget.
That's another thing.
Versus going, like going out of the country and trying to figure out birding there. We'll do baby steps first, I suppose.
Yeah, and you won't be disappointed, believe me. Incredible birding in those two spots. All right, we have come to it. 10th question. I call this the dreaded question. Jess Andersen, what is your favorite bird?
I mean, it's the bearded vulture, hands down.
Bearded vulture.
Yeah. It was funny because it was like the dreaded question. I was like, not even dreaded. I've answered this question so many times.
This is a piece of cake.
It's the bearded vulture.
Okay.
I just think they're very cool. They're very badass. They have a very interesting like niche, right? They eat bones as opposed to like most other vultures who are like cleaning stuff off of bones. And they look like dragons. And
tell me where you saw it.
I've never seen one.
No.
Is this my favorite bird that I've seen?
No. These are your rules.
Okay.
Your rules. Okay.
No, never seen one.
Okay.
But I like in real life at least, but I've seen the pictures. One of my old coworkers used to work at World Bird Sanctuary, and they had a bearded vulture, Sophia, and he actually was able to get some feathers from her and gave them to me, so I have some of those. And then I have like all kinds of like little, our old other vet tech also painted like this little miniature painting of a bearded vulture, like flying, spewing fire out of its mouth like a dragon. And it's the coolest like scene. I'm like, I need to get this tattooed on me somewhere.
I was going to say, make a good tattoo.
Yeah, it's insane. But very easy for me answer. The worst answer is really like, what is your favorite bird in this area? Because that's
a little tougher.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably a long-tailed duck, to be honest. And they're not
legit. They're
not technically here all the time, so I'm like, does that count? But yeah, probably a long-tailed duck. God, they're so handsome. Ugh.
They are. I divide ducks into two categories: weird ducks and elegant ducks, and they definitely are an elite tier elegant duck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
For sure. I mean, they really got the name right, didn't they?
They did. After not getting it right before.
With the ring-necked duck?
No, I won't say it here. That the long-tailed duck had a terrible name before it was renamed long-tailed duck.
Yes, okay. I did hear about that, because we got a long-tailed duck into care, and we posted about him. Also, probably I should have said that as one of like the coolest birds we've gotten, but he was very cool, very cute, very good. But somebody had like posted the old name, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I had to look it up and be like, oh, I see. Okay, like this is a whole, did they have to change the name like that argument. I was like, we're not getting into that. Not on this Facebook page right now.
The bird name that manages to be ageist, racist, and sexist all in one word.
Oh my God.
Jess Andersen is a wonderful birder, as well as the rehab director at Blue Ridge Wildlife Center in Northern Virginia. And you can follow their good work at blueridgewildlifectr.org. I also highly recommend finding Jess as Jess in the Wild on Instagram and other social media platforms. You will learn a lot, you'll laugh, and you'll see a lot of birds, maybe even the very rare ruby-crowned kinglet in focus. Jess, it's been such an honor and so much fun to have you as a guest on 10 Birding Questions. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. This was awesome.
10 Birding Questions is a Birding with Bilbo production. Hosted and produced by Nate Bowler. Alexandra Hidalgo is our associate producer. Original theme music by Alejandro Zavala. If you wish to support our work at Birding with Bilbo, consider subscribing to my Substack, bilbobaggins.substack.com. And that's Bilbo with 2 L's. Of course, the best way to support us is with a paid subscription, which comes with bonus written, photographic, and podcast content like this.
But I can see that back talon is fully inside my arm.
A quarter of all earnings from this episode will be donated to the Blue Ridge Wildlife Center. That's all for this time. As always, thanks for listening, and don't forget to bird your ass off.